The mission is conservation, but a local effort started more than 40 years ago has now expanded all across the globe. Good morning and thanks for joining us. I'm News 3 at 9 anchor Terry Barr, your host of For the Record this Sunday. And our guests, Sand County Foundation President Brent Haglund and the Program Director with Community-Based Conservation Network Africa, Mike Jones. And thank you to both of you for being here today.
Our pleasure.
Great. I want to start by making sure everyone learns right off the bat, what is the Sand County Foundation?
Well, I can give a start. Mike can amplify. And Sand County Foundation has its roots in Wisconsin soil and Wisconsin water because we're based on the writings of Aldo Leopold, the famous naturalist philosopher. And our name, a Sand County Foundation, is based on a Sand County Almanac, Leopold's impressive book.
We said it starts local, but then it's expanded globally. What can you add to that, Mike?
Well, it has, yes. And I actually have a great pleasure and privilege in working with this bunch of people from here in Madison and Wisconsin. Because what they're doing is very closely aligned to what I've been doing for many years in Africa. And Brent came out and took a look at what we were doing, and we became firm friends more or less on the spot. And a couple of years later, Brent took the foundation and convinced the board that going to work in Africa was a good thing to do. Very good for me, very good for conservation in Africa. And hopefully, too, good for conservation in America, because one of the things we try and do is take stuff that I'm doing in Africa and learning about and bringing that back into contexts that are relevant here in the United States. And it's interesting because, in fact, although there are many differences in terms of peoples and habitats and animals, there are also a lot of similarities, particularly at the principle level. And a lot of those principles boil down to what Aldo Leopold developed as his philosophy of conservation over 60 years ago now.
Right.
So it makes a very nice bundle package of stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, anyway, it's a very inspiring program to work on.
So you're working together.
Yes.
Who's further ahead, or who's learning from whom, or is it really a partnership?
In some cases, it's a partnership. An example I like to share with people is how landowners in Texas, which is a place where people hold wildlife close to their heart as they do in so much of the rest of the country, have actually imported lessons from both South Africa, from Zimbabwe, about how to better manage wildlife so that wildlife becomes a greater part of the economic package and the ecologic package of the land. And as Mike said, that goes back to the principles Leopold laid out in a Sand County Almanac, written here in Wisconsin.
And how has that been attributed over there? Are you learning from that then, or do you feel like you've been able to push some ideas over here too?
It cuts both ways,
Okay.
and very well too. I mean, I get a big kick out of coming to meetings here in the U.S. and listening to ranchers and farmers here and environmentalists and the government as well, grappling with problems which I've grappled with, the same kinds of problems but very different settings. And I can bring something to those discussions. It's an outside perspective, but based on similar experiences. And I can also learn a lot from the experiences they're having here, the way they tackle the problems and so on. So it's definitely, it's a two-way thing.
What is a current issue? What are you working on right now that is really tough to tackle, maybe?
Well, a tough-to-tackle issue is the environmental consequences of farming. And one aspect of that is, in the United States, is manifest as too much nutrient that doesn't get to the crop goes down the river and away it goes, making problems perhaps downstream from Dodge County, Wisconsin, into the Gulf of Mexico. With support from Senator Cole, Congresswoman Baldwin, and initiating funding from Milwaukee's Lyndon Harry Bradley Foundation, we've begun to lay out solutions to a big part of that farming environmental problem. And our farmers in Wisconsin, now in Iowa and Illinois, are producing more and, if you will, releasing less pollutant. The connection back, to, if you will, across, as Mike and other people say, across the pond, across the Atlantic Ocean, is that farmers in Africa can be incentivized by the same sorts of drivers, that is, modest incentives that are meaningful to them in their farm economy, that help them switch to something that's more efficient for nutrient use and better for farming and less for pollution. So another example of a current issue.
How hard is it to get folks to understand that? Do you have to go directly to the farmer or the rancher, whoever it is you might be dealing with, and have that face-to-face with them? Or does it help you that you have the lawmakers listening and understanding and passing maybe some more protective laws so they have to follow that as well? What's the best route?
I'll start. Mike will have I'm sure, an even richer perspective than me. And we believe that the principles really matter of landowner leadership. And in the cases we're working on, for the most part, the leaders really are the landowners. They are the farmers. They are the ranchers. They are, in some cases, even the fishermen, who look for ways to help shape policies, ultimately, that can benefit the land and their economic operation.
Yes. They don't want to lose their benefits, so they see it as a benefit to help and become a partner as well.
Partner in the land community.
That's perfect. Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. A good farmer is also a good conservationist. And this is part of Leopold's message and very much a part of what I'm finding in practice. I actually started life as a government conservationist, working with the wildlife department in Zimbabwe. So over the last 10 years or so, I've been going through a complete re-education in terms of what local people can do to contribute towards conservation. One of the things I'm finding is that farmers and ranchers get the problem and understand it a lot more readily than people in government positions. So changing policy can actually be very difficult because people in government who formulate the policies don't really understand the problems that they're dealing with. And that's one of the really interesting things about working with Sand County Foundation. It's this farmer or rancher perspective on what it means to be a part of the land and the landscape and the animals and plants that occur on that land. You know, it's different from that which the government people have by and large.
Well, we gentlemen are going to take a break here, and when we return, we're going to take a little bit of a look at a project that part of it was filmed in Africa. So we're going to do that when we return to this Sunday Mornings For the Record. Thanks for being here.